Silence your cell phones. Makes it much more peaceful in here when we do that.
I'll double check mine.
And good evening. Welcome to the Mayor and Council special meeting on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. This is for the purpose of continuing the public hearing regarding the Seoul annexation and then the closing of said public hearing. We'll begin with our pledge to the flag. I'll ask Mayor Pro Tem Vigliotti to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, let the record reflect that all members of council are present and accounted for, with the exception of Councilman Haynes, who is excused for the evening. We'll begin with our continuation of the public hearing. I'm going to briefly go over some of the guidelines that we follow for these public hearings, so listen up and hopefully you'll adhere to them. We won't have any issues. Public comment is open to everybody. If you want to speak, when it is your opportunity, simply come up to the lectern, state your name and address, and then you'll have 3 minutes to speak. As you near the end of your 3 minutes, I will signal you. Please begin to wrap it up at that point. This evening, you are directing your comments to the mayor and council. This is not a question and answer. We're simply here to hear everything you have to say, and then we'll digest all of that to prepare for the decision next month. If you do wish to pose questions, just know they will not be answered this evening. Instead, you'll hear from city staff with an appropriate answer, and if not from them, you hear from myself. If you have information you wish to give out to myself and council, I'll ask that you simply give it to the clerk over on the side here, then she'll distribute it to us accordingly. I believe that's going to be everything. I expect we're going to have a lot of good information come to us this evening. So with that, I'm going to open it up. Whoever would like to go first, please step up to the lectern and give us your name and address.
So good evening, I'm Jim Thomas. I live on Deal Road. I have a little bit of twist. I need to ask for a request. I co-authored these comments with a resident of the town, and we thought it might be more effective to combine our comments and do 6 minutes rather than 2 3-minute.
You'll have 3 minutes this evening.
So even though it's two people's comments.
That's correct,
So
because
I'll invite
you
her
are
up
being
to
delivered
finish.
by one. That's
So
correct.
I'll invite her up to finish.
Sounds great. I appreciate that.
So as a beginning point, we believe that how this public hearing process is conducted is really fundamentally flawed. The intention of these hearings is really to give the area residents an opportunity to hear the town's case for the annexation and the zoning change and waiver for the Seoul property. It's also a chance for people to ask questions, to be able to hold the mayor and council accountable for their decisions in a public forum. Questions are publicly asked for the benefit of the entire community. And therefore, we believe that these questions should be publicly answered so that everyone is really on the same page in terms of receiving the same information. The protocol of answering individual questions privately really effectively curtails any accountability on the part of the mayor and council and squelches any discussion on any of the controversial information that anyone has presented. So we request that in the spirit of becoming more transparent, that the mayor and council schedule at least one more hearing or allow actual discussion about these important issues. I think these hearings, while they satisfy the letter of the law, are not effective at providing a meaningful forum for public feedback and discussion. So an article from the Baltimore Sun that now has been circulated around, it was at the end of April, noted that the planning professionals in the county recommended that the commissioners oppose the annexation and zoning change, which they ultimately approved. The article states the Department of Zoning's opposition was based on several issues. The proposed zoning is inconsistent with land use designation in the 2010 Taneytown Community Comprehensive Plan. There were concerns over water and sewer capacity and the annexation of Harney Road would create an illegal enclave, which I know is, I'll talk about that in a minute, related to the not annexing the road, but leaving that as a public leaving that as county land. The article continues to say that Land and Resource Management also expressed concern regarding water capacity and sewer allocation. In discussions with the county planner, who focuses on water and sewer issues, he expressed doubts and had, quote, big concerns over the ability of the town to add water and sewer capacity to serve the proposed development. And we quote, without severely affecting existing services. He noted that there were other residential units still to be served in Meads Crossing, in Meadowbrook, as well as a number of industrial and commercial properties that had been approved for water and sewer and in line for service ahead of the Sewell property, but had not yet come online. When you take all this capacity that is spoken for, the town currently sits at 88% of its allocated water and sewer capacity before even one single home would receive water and sewer service on the Sewell property, much less 300 new homes. 88%. This allocation exceeds the 80% limit required by the state. We realize that the town has plans on paper to increase pumping capacity, groundwater recharge, and sewer capacity, but these fixes are only on paper and will not have been implemented before the annexation proposal is voted upon. Regardless, if and when these proposed changes to water and sewer happen, we know by talking to the county planner that these projections will likely fall short of the actual needs of the community. We also learned that the aquifer Taneytown pumped from is known as an unconfined aquifer and is very susceptible to drought. This town must be very conservative and act responsibly to maintain current water and sewer service and not overdraw the aquifer. God help us if we have a drought midsummer, which is not unusual. Our water supply will suffer, our wells will suffer. The overdraw from a new community will have serious consequences in wells in the surrounding unannexed community. Many of the folks in this room already know this happened on Fringer Road when the Meadowbrook development came into being and strained our water resources, drying out the wells for 14 neighbors. Gentlemen and ladies, history repeats itself unless we learn from it. It seems fiscally irresponsible to annex the property first and promise through ordinances that you'll meet the water and sewer needs before figuring out how and when and how much it will cost to do so. This strategy is akin to buying a new car before you know how much it will cost, how to drive it, and how you'll finance it. Without going into great detail about the town's claims that this annexation does not create an enclave, I'd like to say one thing. Joe Griffiths in the State Planning Office commented that Taneytown's omitting Harney Road from annexation while at the same time retaining that same road designation as a county right-of-way was very unusual. To us, it appears to be an end-run maneuver performed to avoid the responsibility to resolve problems created by an enclave.
Your 3 minutes are up, sir. Do you have someone to finish your statement? Thank you.
Gail Sands, 27 York Street, around the corner.
Yep.
I walked over. That's pretty cool. Mr. Griffith wasn't even sure whether this use of a right-of-way, if contested, would hold up in a court of law. Once again, the solution satisfies the letter of the law and not the spirit of it. In closing, I'm glad I only got to do a little bit, darn.
You can speak beyond that. I won't stop you.
It's all right. It's been that day. In closing, we oppose the annexation of the Sewell property based on these important facts. Number one, in approving the zoning changes and granting a waiver to the town, the county commissioners ignored the opinions of their own professional planning staff. Number two, there is uncertainty about whether the town can supply adequate water and sewer capacity without affecting existing services and water supply in the surrounding community. The solution to these issues will not be in place prior to the vote of the annexation approval. Number three, The solution to the enclave issue does not solve the potential problems generated by the creation of something that essentially acts as an enclave. And number 4, the town has created a public hearing process that does not allow for complete discussion by Taneytown's residents, and therefore accountability on the part of the mayor and council. And I just want to add a little bit. I think the more transparency that can be provided to our community, the more trust you will have from the community. And I think that's a really important factor across the board. I'm not saying it's particularly against you, but if people don't know what's going on, they mistrust what happens. And I guess that's, thank you for that opportunity.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Who would like to come up next? Step on up. Please state your name and your address.
Hi, my name is Lisa Crawford. Well, you know me, I live at 61 West Baltimore Street. When Flickinger was mayor, I was on quite a few councils at that time. Of course, my life took a very different turn, and I'm not on any currently. However, I try to keep up to date. I kind of felt like it was not, I wouldn't be heard if I came here, but upon listening to the last council meeting, I decided to show up. What's funny is some of my issue has to do with water. I rode my bike, even though I'm in my kicks, to get here fast enough, but I can't get water downstairs because it's not working. But the aquifers, I remember when there was a treatment plan of some sort that we all showed up for. The aquifers are a huge issue. They're a big issue. And Flickinger knew that, and a lot of the old timers do know that. It was brought up at the last meeting. It will drain other wells dry, even if it provides the city something. As far as our water bills go, they're based off of the sewage. And I will say this, like my trees that were wonderfully planted out front that Nancy McCormick helped me get 2 of that I always dreamed of, I would take my bath water and water them to preserve water, but it's the sewage output, but not all of my water goes to sewage. So that is one thing that really makes our water bill high, is how that's connected. The aquifers are a big issue. I would also ask, because I feel like there's big attorneys involved. And once those get involved, it's like the little people don't have a say because the big attorneys are going to win. I understand why they want to sell the farm. They've had a hard time getting work. I firmly have believed in the past that if it's your land, you, for the most part, have a right, as long as it's not affecting your neighbors incessantly. One of the new developments from the farm, it affected an agricultural land. And I will tell you this, my water has tasted very different since the newer development has gone in. It tastes different. I'm starting to buy bottled water. I never have done that before because I can always taste a little bit of the plastic in it. The second is, I have talked recently, and Darrell Hall's been great, about things to do to my property because I actually have a buildable lot on the back. I actually have 2 addresses, and I talked to him about my garage. What's funny is, I have more restrictions. I would have to go to get an attorney. I don't have that kind of money. So if you're gonna let this go in, make it fair for the little people. And the second is, we don't have a community pool. And one of the communities going up, they will now have a private community pool, but the poor people in town do not have a pool. You can mandate that they put in a pool if you allow this for public usage. It's happened. You've mandated in the past that they give so much to the police or the fire department. Same thing can go for a public pool. I think that's important. It's a life skill if that happens. Again, third, making it fair for everybody in Taneytown. These communities pay extra so that things are nice and uniformly and pretty. Well, what about the junkyard next door to me that I've been trying to get taken care of for years? And Flickinger actually wrote us a letter when we first came into town, young and dumb, years ago, taking on a property. We had no idea how hard it was going to be to fix up. And of course, because of life, I'm now fixing it up again, and it's taking a while because things have changed. But we had it fixed up and painted, and we got a letter from the mayor thanking us for making the downtown look nice. If I can't keep the junkyard out of my next door, and my property, which actually has a good roots foundation, better than these new homes, if I can't get as much out of it and you're not protecting me, why do these people in these communities get protected? Why aren't the junkyards fined? And I've actually gone as far to offer my neighbor, like the cleanup day, I had a friend of mine come help me to take down to the dump. And I went over and I offered to help and take stuff for them. They literally have gallons oil gallon drums out in their yard up against my fence. And, you know, when this property, and Lee will remember, I was asked by some neighbors when he put up a garage to come stand against it, and I didn't.
I'm going to ask you to start wrapping up at the end of your 3 minutes.
I didn't because I felt people had the right to do what they want. And my only request was that he clean up his yard with it. The front of it wasn't finished. There's a big mound of dirt from it with grass growing. And again, it's a junkyard. It will diminishes my house's value. So if you're going to put protections in place for the wealthier coming in, I think you should do the same for us in town, and also the aquifers, it's an issue. I hope you don't ignore it.
Thank you, ma'am. Who would like to speak next?
Possibly all these questions have been asked before.
Ms. Cook, please state your name and address.
Pardon?
Please state your name and address for the public hearing.
Barbara Cook, 314 Clubside Drive, Taneytown. Is this to be a gated community? What is the age limit at this new community? Is there an age limit and a time limit for kids and grandkids to visit? In other words, sometimes grandkids come to visit and they end up not only staying, but they're slipped into school and it's hard not to get them moved. And how about live-ins? What is the age for people who come to live with the residents there? And also, my last question, what is the speed limit in this community?
Thank you, Ms. Cook. I'm going to take a second to clarify what is under discussion tonight. What is under discussion is the annexation of the property. There is not a development pending with the city. There are no details, there are no numbers, there's no site plans out there. This is only about the annexation of a property, not the potential future development of that property. Yes, it is their intent to develop the property. We have no information about that at this time. So I ask that your comments remain about the annexation and less about potential future development at this time. I understand how they can relate, but if you're looking for answers specific to development, they don't exist at this moment. Thank you. Who's next? Ms. Cook?
Generally speaking, I'm very much in favor of this community, but I do believe certain questions have to be answered.
Thank you. Sir?
First and foremost, my name's Ed Grimes. I own and operate a excavating company out of Westminster, Maryland, and on Deep Run Road. I make my living, used to make my living working for big box builders. I stopped doing all that kind of work because they have a very, very low quality of work that they accept. I now work for farms. 99% of my work is for farms. Seeing this farm go up to a builder kills me. To see more houses go in, to see more traffic, to see more water and sewer problems, and everything that the family back there had said about the water is 100% true. I am Maryland Department of Environmental certified, and when they force the water into the ground, it creates problems. It also creates problems when it runs off. The other lady had mentioned about watering her tomato plants and stuff with bath water. In the state of Maryland, it is actually illegal to collect rainwater runoff. I don't know if anyone was aware of that. It is illegal.
Right.
Why? I couldn't tell you. Seeing all the additional, I understand what we're here for is the annexation.
Right.
But down the road, say it's a year, 2 years, 5 years from now, when there's 318 houses on there, because there is a proposed plan out there already for what could be on that property. 318 houses, just say 2 people per house, that's 2 vehicles per house. That's over 600 more cars to go through this one little intersection up here. You know, Taneytown used to be like the little backwoods town of Carroll County, and as far as I know, it still is. That picture on the wall back there, that's Taneytown. You know, not with this development out here. I had no idea this was even happening. We were working down the road. I had no idea what was going on in my own hometown. Seeing all this stuff happen is killing me. You know, I see farms sell all the time. I see big box builders buy the land, they put the proposals in, they have enough strong arm, they will overrun the local government and they will get that development in there and they will move those people in. And once those people are moved in, no one cares. They don't care. They made their money, they're done, they're gone. Now the overburden is on the town and the people that live here. We already have enough traffic here. We already have, enough overpopulation of the schools. Everything else is going on. We don't need an additional 600 people living in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to speak next?
My name is Kenneth Hackett. Hello, Mayor and City Council. I live at 8 George Street, Taneytown, Maryland. And my concerns have already been spoken about, but mostly it has to do with water and sewer. Our sewer treatment plant is, if I read correctly, pretty much running at full access. So we're probably going to have to add more sewage onto the treatment plant. Water. See, I heard Fringer Road. I was one of the residents on Fringer Road that pumped muddy water. I know that's probably, well number 14? That's only running, that they posted, oh, we have plenty of water. This well is only running at so many percent. We can only draw so many gallons a day. Well, I think that's a problem that was resolved in the 70s because you were draining the water from Fringer Road. And you might have another well or two because I heard some things about other wells. So you back up on your water draw. So if you put in these 320 new houses, where's the water coming from? If we have so much water, why do we have restrictions in the middle of town or summertime a lot of years? We've been lucky a little bit here lately, but not by much. But when I can't even water a plant, wash my car, whatever, I think it's nuts. And as the one gentleman said, schools. What's our capacity on our schools? You put in 320 houses, you're probably going to have at least 320 more kids. Maybe not, but if you figure 1 or 2 per household, it's going to be close. It's just a concern of mine. I've lived in Taneytown and around Taneytown 65 years, and I've seen a lot of things. Transparency would be the best thing that you all could do. Transparent. If you're planning this stuff, let the people know and know exactly what your plans are. I know you said there is no set plans, but you already have drawn up. I looked at it right on the internet. The whole housing plan that is planned for the 320 houses. So somebody that doesn't have a plan seems to have a pretty good plan in my book. That's all.
Thank you. Who would like to come up next?
Good evening. My name is Michael Adcock. I actually don't live in the city of Taneytown. I live at 2137 Mayberry Road. But I've been up here 11 years, and just like all these other folks, seems like water's the issue, traffic's the issue, schools. I'm opposed to the annexation. I like the open farmland. I'd like to see the city use it more beneficially. I'd like to see anything there but development, a solar farm, a wind farm, something that would generate power to the city, help the residents, even the Amish. There's a lot of Amish moving into the area. Rent the land to them, let them farm it. They can provide food, for the community and, help their family as well. But I'm just against any development of this sort, just to see the farmland go is it's very sad. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Tara Stanzik. I live at 29 Amicus Street. Mayor and City Council, I am opposed to annexing the 2 parcels of the Swoles Farm into the R10,000 high-density residential area. In addition, I am also opposed to annexing any part of the Swoles Farm land into any residential zoned area. I would like if it could be zoned into something as agriculture or conservation. I understand that that is something the town cannot do, and that is the property owner's choice. So some of my reasons of why I am stating that I am opposing the annexation is because the city of Taneytown, they do not have a water shortage. I know most of everybody is aware of that. That works for the city, although I don't think that the majority of the town understands that. I hear that a lot, but there is not a water shortage. And therefore, I believe with this additional well that is on the property is not necessary. Also, if more acreage is added to the city, then the state will always allow the city to pump more water if needed. And then also per the 2020 MDE report, well 17 by Baptist Church can assist with that. And then per the MDE 2020 report, the city does have an issue with unaccounted water due to leaky pipes and broken water meters, as well as low groundwater recharge rate. So this farmland could be considered helping and attaining additional acreage to assist with the groundwater recharge, but only through keeping the land in its natural state. Of course, there are environmental green initiatives in terms of infrastructure that can be looked into as well. So it is well known that urban growth causes changes to the land, and which in turn can lower groundwater recharge rates and add additional pollutants into the streams and lakes. Like, for example, Piney Run Creek, it's actually right behind the farm, and I really don't think it stands a chance if there is development on this land. The city also sits directly on top of the Upper Monocacy River and Double Pike Creek watershed, which was interesting to me to find out as I researched so much into this. And as you are aware, the Upper Monocacy watershed does drain into the Potomac River, which then goes into the Chesapeake Basin. And I just know an increase in land development creates more runoff and can also lead to flooding within our watershed, and we are smack dab in between 2 of them. The city of Taneytown, although scary and sometimes rare, there is a possibility of sinkholes. So these can be induced by land use practices such as groundwater pumping and from construction and development practices. Lowering the groundwater levels, soil erosion, digging through soil layers, concentration of water flow and stormwater drains can also lead to sinkholes, which we have seen in Frederick, although that is not my point I'm making because of that. There seems to be a common belief that our town, like our taxes will decline if we have more people. However, it is known that the property taxes may increase with more residents, which of course is great for the town. However, not for the residents with higher assessments, such as new developments. So therefore, like myself, would be paying more in property taxes than maybe some of the older properties. So I believe, maximizing the benefits of annexation requires very, very careful analysis and planning. And it's my belief that Taneytown does not need any additional residential projects at this time. And the city's focus should be on redevelopment and possibly mixed-use development as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to come up and speak next?
Can I touch on a couple more points?
It's only 1 per person, but I appreciate it anyway.
Good evening. Clark Shaffer. I think one of the big attorneys that was referred to earlier. I represent the Sewell farm property. First, on transparency, it's been on the master plan for 6 or 8 years as a future development area. It's been land use designated for residential development for all those years. I personally have been up here 5 or 6 times in the last 6 or 8 months at public meetings where this was discussed. The annexation agreement, the introduction of the resolution, work sessions. So I just don't, okay, transparency, but I don't know what else you can do. I mean, you put this it's on the agenda, it's publicly advertised. And it's been well considered by the town, frankly, over about 10 years in various iterations. Secondly, your sovereignty, the city's sovereignty is exclusive within your city limits. Outside of your city limits, you have no sovereignty. That means that the county controls, not you. Thirdly, there's been suggestions about preservation and you know, I've been doing this for a long time, and when you own property and you want to develop property, there's a lot of people that have a lot of ideas for what you should do with your property. You know, great ideas, like well, one of them was preservation and open space. This property is not eligible for a preservation program because the county has a policy that they will not buy easements in areas that are in growth areas. Makes sense, doesn't it? Why would you buy an easement over a property that's in a growth area? Fourthly, with regard to water and sewer, and those are legitimate concerns. But this property will not develop unless and until there is water and sewer capacity. And besides that, I mean, just as a sort of an equity matter, the Sewells own over 100 acres of land. They've got some water rights, don't they? I mean, there's some water. They've farmed it for all these years. Water's come down. It's going down into the ground because they don't have 300 houses on there. They don't have impervious surface on there. Their water is going down in the ground. Now, the property's zoned for it. The property is master planned for it. And this is the time to start the process of allowing this development to go forth, or the project to go forth. It'll be a long slog. It'll have to go through all the town's processes. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, sir. Who else would like to speak this evening? I'm sorry, you already had an opportunity, but thank you.
Can I still use like a minute?
No, your time is ended, but thank you. Who else would like to speak? Now, keep in mind, if you're not able to speak this evening, if you already have, you have other thoughts, please submit them. Email to the clerk, email to myself. All of those comments go to the mayor and council. The other opportunity I'm going to give you, it will not be part of the official public record, but this Saturday I am having an open forum at the library at 11 o'clock. That's where I will be answering questions of anything, not just this, but anything. That will not be part of the public record, but it is an opportunity to have further discussion as well. So keep that in mind. If you have additional comments, please submit them in writing. It's usually easier for us anyway. We can reference it better. Ma'am, please come forward.
My name is Laura Thompson. I live just outside of town at 5760 Taneytown Pike. Thank you all for making this available for public comment for a second time so that those of us who couldn't make the first meeting can have input. My family and I have lived here for 10 years, but we've been in the area for the past 20. My oldest son works at one of the grocery stores in town, and my youngest son works at the local diner. After looking at many different options all over the state, we bought about 10 acres right off 140 just outside town and turned it into a farmette. It was my 13-year-old son who insisted to me that he loved a town small enough for a diner where a long table invites neighbors to sit next to each other and share a table and conversation. He loves seeing the morning. I lost my place, I'm sorry. That's what happens when you're trying to hurry writing stuff down. A long table invites neighbors to sit next to each other and share a table and conversation. He loves seeing the morning coffee crew come in to banter with each other and knows most of them by name. My 13-year-old son, who is now 15 and now works at the diner, is who convinced me Taneytown was worth investing in. This was to be a forever home, not just for us as we grow old, but for our children as well, so that we could pass that on. But as a mom and seeing the unraveling of our society, it was Taneytown and small town values that would invest in not just my son, but my 2 young daughters as well. They would learn values that back up my parenting that are quickly becoming a thing of the past. Children need to hear both wisdom from those elders over a cup of coffee at the bar. They need to hear their banter as well as their war stories. That doesn't exist in a place like Westminster or Frederick, not anymore. The busyness of a large town does not have time for those older values. Our forever home is now being surrounded by cookie cutter homes, an historic part of Maryland that saw the boots of George Washington and can hear cannons fire from Gettysburg will be lost in history books to construction and cheap development. The Sewell property annex is not the only construction planned by our home. The Roop Road construction project is also in the works. Our small farmette will be surrounded in the next few years, if this is approved, by more than 400 homes. This is in addition to the hundreds of homes that went in off 194. Not only the small town will be erased from history, but the noise increase will be dramatic and will take something from me and my family that is incredibly precious. I manage a very busy business in Westminster. I live here to have a moment's peace between the chaos of the requirements of that job. Especially as the manager of a business during COVID, my home has been my salvation. I don't have any ill will for the Sewell family. We've given business to the tree farm every year. My kids have a picture of our family every year in front of the big pine tree that we joke every year we'll cut down and find a way to haul home. I believe in investing in local business. But as to the comments from the attorney representing the Sewell family, where he was stating that the issues with the project and things have been on the books for years and all that kind of stuff, that's not really a fair statement. Taneytown and this leadership needs to decide if it no longer finds value in a small town and small town ideals. If you do, then it needs to be actively preserved. This cannot be passive leadership. Money is to be made and the town will be lost forever and will fundamentally change. There will be no going back. I'm not concerned as much with the water issues. I think there's plenty of water around town. There are ways to access that and move that. My biggest concern is the noise and the town. My kids believed in this town when they were raised here, when we moved here years and years ago, and putting all these homes, flooding the town with homes in places that they have chosen to live in and to have their families will completely change that dynamic. I escape Westminster and my store and its busyness and its chaos to come home, and it will no longer be that way for me. And that scares me very much. I don't want to live in chaos.
Thank you. Anyone else who has not spoken wish to say anything this evening?
Good evening, everyone. Chris Tillman, 10 York Street, George's on York Bed and Breakfast, and I wish to stress straight for the record today that I do not speak today for the Chamber of Commerce. Speaking only for myself, the Chamber has no position on this issue at this time. I would like to address a couple of things that I've heard here this evening, a couple of which are a little concerning because I know that this process has been ongoing for a number of years. We've lived in Taneytown for 5 years, and I've heard about it ever since we got here. So to say that this is, being sprung on people is kind of a little bit of a misnomer. And also, people talk about the plan that came around on Facebook today, about 320 houses or whatever. That was a concept plan that is probably not going to happen. So at issue before us today is whether or not the town wants to annex that property into the town limits. We're not, as you said, we're not deciding on the development today. The town needs growth. Some people are against growth. Growth has changed. A lot of people don't like change. But you have to ask yourself, if you're not going to have growth in the town, are you going to pay higher taxes to account for the additional costs and higher costs? And if you're not spreading that out across, if you're not willing to spread that out across some more homes, you're going to be paying some more higher tax rates. Ask yourself, are you ready for that? Have you considered that in your position? Transparency in the process is important, and there should be a lot of transparency in the process of getting this from the point where it would be annexed, if it were to be annexed, to a development that actually goes into place. And as you well know, and folks here may not know that how long and arduous that process is, things change in that process, and it's your chance to govern it. As Clark said earlier, if it's not in the city, then you won't have any control over it. If it is in the city, then we do have control of it. And when I say we, I mean the royal we of everyone sitting in this room. People who talk about wanting the process to be more transparent, well, this room is open every time they have meetings here. The Planning Commission meets the third Monday. So you can come in and sit in on any of those meetings. The process is as transparent as that can be. Yeah, as we know, that farm is not eligible for farmland preservation. So if it's already in a growth area, and in order for the city to be able to have control over what happens there, I think that it's not necessarily a bad idea to annex that property. Annexation does not automatically lead to development. And for those who wish to continue the good fight about what happens there, continue to come to these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wish to speak this evening? Okay. With that, I'm going to close the public hearing as of 8:11 p.m. on June the 1st, 2022. I wish to give my sincere thanks to all of you, and also to those who didn't come but have voiced their opinions on social media and through emails. This is why we have public hearings, because we want to hear everything you have to say. We were elected here to represent you. So we have these hearings so that we know what you desire, and then we determine how that fits into a long-term vision of the city. So thank you so much for taking the time to come out here, for submitting your comments. I greatly appreciate it, more than you could possibly know. I know everyone up here feels the exact same way. If you wish to discuss further with any of us, we're all available all the time. My email address, if you wish to take it down and contact me directly, is B as in boy, W, A, N as in Nancy, T as in Tom, Z as in zebra, at taneytown.org. It is bwance@taneytown.org. And lastly, if you prefer to speak with me directly, I will give you my cell phone number. You can write that down at 410-236-7807. Feel free to contact me. I'd be more than happy to discuss any other questions that you have. This Saturday, I am having an open forum at 11 a.m. at the Taneytown Public Library. Feel free to come, ask questions. It can be about this. It can be about anything. I'll do my best to answer all of your questions. With that, that's all I have for the evening. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
May I have a second, please? All right, all in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, say nay. Thank you all. Enjoy your evening.